the last 5 years, we closed half of those supermarkets. We closed 3 supermarkets because of shoplifting.
Welcome to Connecting for Future, your podcast for beyond connectivity. And now, your host, Christian Kosely.
Hello and welcome to Connecting for Future, the podcast where we explore the innovations, leadership, and forward-thinking ideas shaping our world. I'm your host, Christian, and today we are talking about how AI is fighting crime. Joining us is Benoît Koenig, CEO of Veesion, a groundbreaking French startup that redefined retail security with AI. Benoît, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hey, Christian. My pleasure. My pleasure to be here.
Let's start with some context. Retail theft has become a global issue. Studies show that less than 2% of all shoplifting incidents are detected and reported. That's shocking. Why do we see more and more shoplifting?
Well, I think there are many factors. Of course, the economic factor is a big topic. But I think now the traditional methods, security cameras, RFID antennas, or guards are less and less deterrent. And we see that because, we'll talk about this later, we analyze the video streams of cameras to detect shoplifting gestures in real time. And people actually conceal items in front of the cameras because they know there's nobody behind the cameras. So it's not a deterrent anymore. And people feel it's easier to shoplift right now.
It's really shocking, right? And that leads us also to Veesion.
We are using Veesion through AI. We have an AI that understands what's going on through the cameras that are basically the eyes of the store. And we add an AI layer that is the brain of the store, if you will. Because we rely on a specific machine learning technique called deep learning.
Okay. How does it work?
There are two parts. First, how the algorithm works, and then how the solution as a whole works to help retailers reduce their losses due to shrink. So concerning the algorithm, we're talking about AI on video content. That is much more difficult than AI on image content, which is lighter. Here, the AI has to understand the relationship between different images, right? So basically, our AI relies on 3 major components that are working together to understand a gestures done by any human. The first component is called human detection. So the algorithm is going to detect different human in the video footage and is going to analyze those humans separately. The second component, and probably the most important one, is what we call body parts tracking. So basically, the algorithm estimates the position of the arm, the forearm, the hand of each human over time. And this is what makes the analysis completely anonymous. The algorithm doesn't care about what people look like. It just cares about body parts and how those body parts evolve over time. The third component is called object recognition. So the algorithm is going to recognize the item in the shelf, is going to recognize a backpack, a purse versus a shopping bag or shopping cart. And those components together, they will provide you every second the probability of the occurrence of any gesture. Like, I think in the last 10 seconds, as an algorithm, I think in the last 10 seconds, 80% chance there were an item taken from the shelf and concealed in a backpack. So that's how the algorithm works. Then the solution as a whole, basically, the algorithm is going to recognize a concealment gestures. We have identified 10 gestures that our customers are looking for. And when the algorithm has recognized one of those 10 gestures, it will extract a short video clip of 5 seconds. And that video clip is going to be sent to a mobile app that you can also open on a tablet or a computer. And you can act in real time thanks to that video alert.
And this works on Android, iOS, doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
Okay. How did you came to such an idea, right? So you don't wake up and say, hey, I want to start such a company, right? So what is the secret behind it?
Yeah, so I personally come from a retail family. My family used to run 6 supermarkets in the Paris region. In the last 5 years, we closed half of those supermarkets. We closed 3 supermarkets because of shoplifting. So I really know what it represents for both independent retailers and for the big groups that are also subject to shoplifting. In the meantime, I met my 2 co-founders during my studies in AI. And back in 2016, 2017, AI on video was just emerging. So we wanted to be the first to work on that major revolution. For us, the next step for AI is to understand what's going on in video content. And the first obvious use case was to detect shoplifting and use the stores of my family as laboratories. And we see ourselves mostly as a gesture recognition AI company rather than only a shoplifting detection company.
Benoît, can you talk about some of the examples you have seen in the past?
Yeah, that's probably the one that I will remember all my life. It was at the beginning of the company. We were testing our prototype in the store of my family, right, in Paris. And one day, it was actually the first real shoplifter we caught thanks to a Veesion alert. In the store of my family, we sent a real-time alert on someone who had placed items in a backpack, and the staff received the alert in the store, and so they were checking at the traditional checkout if he would pay for those items in the backpack, and he actually was not taking them out to pay, and so the staff asked to verify the backpack, and he indeed had some meat items in the backpack. So they asked him to come in the back office and ask him to pay for those items and to ask since when it happened, because some of the staff actually knew this guy from coming regularly to the store. And the guy actually revealed that he was a police officer. So he was in a civilian clothes, but his job was to be a police officer. And so I was there and I was asking him like how a policeman can actually end up shoplifting in a store. And he told me that one day he honestly forgot some items at the bottom of his backpack. He left the store, and once at home, he realized that he didn't pay for those items, and he was honestly embarrassed, but he said, "Oh, wow, it worked. I didn't know I didn't pay for those items." So the next day, he would try again for meat because he was doing a lot of gym. So he had to eat a lot of meat, and he tried, put some stuff in a backpack, didn't pay for those. And again, it worked. He could go home with those free items. And so he kept doing this for months, several times a week. So we settled with this guy, but this is to give you an idea of there's no profile, of course. And you can imagine the amount of money it represents for someone that comes 3, 4, 5 times a week, stealing 20, 30, 40 euros each time. It's several thousand at the end of the year for a single individual. So that was a crazy example, and we have dozens of examples like this.
And Benoît, can you talk about some of the challenges you faced when you were basically starting the company?
First, the R&D challenge, because again, AI on video at the time was just emerging, so nobody had actually done that at a large scale. So we had to do it on our own, make the mistakes, and try to solve those mistakes. We were not copy-pasting an existing technology coming from the US and trying to distribute it in Europe. We had to do everything from scratch. This is the first technical challenge. Then a more business challenge, which is people don't even know AI can do such a thing. So today, for example, we don't rely on Google Ads for distributing our technology because people just don't type on Google an AI to detect shoplifting. You don't even know it exists. So we had to educate the market and share that the fact that it exists and it's working, and because the first few prospects we would address, they were skeptical, right? Say, oh, this is too good to be true. Oh, how does that work? What is even AI? I don't even know that.
Right, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about Veesion? Like how many employees do you have and a little bit of the background?
Sure. So we started working on that technology during our studies back in 2016, 2017. We launched the company right after our master's in AI from École Polytechnique here in Paris. 2018, we spent 2.5 years purely on R&D, testing back and forth our prototypes on the stores of my family, trying to get the feedback of users. Of course, at the beginning, generating a lot of false alerts and missing a lot of thefts, but getting better over time. The more data we had to train on, the better the algorithm got. And so we started selling for real from mid-2020, just right after COVID. And since we managed to equip more than 5,000 locations across the globe, in more than 25 countries. And we have an office here in Paris with around 100 people, an office in Lisbon, Portugal with 30 people. And we would like to open an office next year in the US because the US is the next priority for us next year.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I fully understand, right? So, and you also need to open office in London or in Germany, right?
Yeah. It's a very easy exportable technology because the cameras are the same all over the world. The shoplifting problem is the same. So very early in the adventure, we wanted to show that we could sell this anywhere. So again, we have 25 countries where we sell Veesion, and of course we have a team remotely from Paris that is addressing Spain, Portugal, Italy, the UK, Belgium, France, of course. And even the US, we sell on the East Coast on the hours that are allowing it to sell in the US, but we already generate more than $1 million of revenue in the US.
Okay. And if you have like an existing store, do you need to get like dedicated cameras, or can you make use of the existing cameras?
That's the major difference with alternative solutions is we plug onto existing cameras. You don't have to replace anything.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's outstanding, right? So, but I'm pretty sure you need to have a lot of cameras, right? So every area needs to be focused on cameras.
Yeah, so this is the great thing about the camera industry right now. You know, back in 1995, cameras were starting to be deployed on a large scale. Now, 2024, 99% of stores have cameras. They are getting cheaper and cheaper, so you get more and more cameras per store, so you have a better coverage. Most of the shopping area now is covered by at least a camera.
Right. I know that's not the topic today, but I'm just thinking out like critical infrastructure. Like if you have like an airport or a train station, could this not also be, I know that's not in regards to shoplifting, but if you see suspected person, would this not also be something which could work with your solution?
Yeah, that's why I was saying we see ourselves more as a gesture recognition technology company rather than a purely shoplifting detection company. In the future, we can imagine a lot of different use cases without having to start from scratch. If you want to detect a new scenario, a new gesture, we're going to reuse 80% of what has been developed already, and we're going to tweak the algorithm, training it on a new training data set. So we just need to collect new examples, enough examples of the new scenario you want to detect. And just for the little story, we already equip duty-free shops because I was surprised. You have a lot of shoplifting in duty-frees, what we call ORC. Yeah, ORC, Organized Retail Crime. They're targeting duty-free shops because you have a lot of high-value products. And since it's a secure environment, you don't have any antennas, you don't have any security agent. Next time you take the plane, you'll notice it. So it's very easy to actually put items in an empty luggage and just leave the duty-free without paying. This is why they lose so much money. And so you have ORC that are buying cheap tickets. They don't even fly. They enter the duty-free shop with empty luggages. They load the luggages with dozens of high-end products like fragrances, tobacco, alcohol, and they just leave the airport with their luggage full of items. So it's several thousand of euros of value each time we detect such a case with Veesion.
That's crazy.
That's insane, yeah.
I was not expected it, right? So because I know if you go on a plane, you always need to have a dedicated bag, right? Which just says like duty-free. But if you just leave the airport, wow, it's crazy.
Exactly. And that's why we started in the grocery store space because of my network, my personal network. But we aim at equipping all retail industries. We already sell to a lot of pharmacies, but then cosmetics, clothing stores, electronics, DIY, duty-free shops, they are in the target. They are also suffering from shoplifting and they have cameras on their shelves.
Yeah. No, I fully understand, right? So, and nowadays you see more and more shops which have like a self-scanning cashier, right? So nobody's really checking on it.
Exactly. That's a big topic. And that's another product, another feature our clients are asking for, because since they implemented self-checkout, they see a surge in their shrink level. Indeed, it's easier to shoplift with self-checkout, but the fraud doesn't happen only at the self-checkout itself. Since you know you're going to go through a self-checkout with no human and less chances to be controlled, it's even more tempting to just load your personal backpack in the aisles with products so you don't have to get them out at the self-checkout. You're just going to pass a small bottle that is costing you €2 and you just leave the store with your backpack full of items.
Yeah, crazy. Now, Benoît, we are switching gears a little bit. It's time for our quick-fire round. I ask you a series of rapid-fire questions and I need your short and snappy answer. Are you ready?
Okay.
The first one, what's the best leadership advice you ever received?
Wow. Just lead by example.
Okay. Well, that's a good one.
What you ask your people to do, you should do it yourself, and probably 10 times better, 10 times faster.
Great. A book every aspiring leader should read.
The biography of Steve Jobs, I guess.
Steve Jobs? Okay.
Steve Jobs typically started from nothing, and he had to build everything from scratch himself. And that's a major difference.
Agree. And what motivates you to keep innovating?
The feedback we have from clients, of course, always focusing on what's not working to make it work. This is what motivates me on a daily basis.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't always listen to what people say or advise you, especially when they haven't done similar things as what you're doing right now.
I got two more. One skill every future leader should master.
Always listen to people from the field, from the intern to the top manager. They all have to say something interesting because they know something you don't know because they're in the field. And you might be more and more away from the field.
And the last one, what's next for Veesion?
What's next on the very short term? Address the biggest market in the world, the US, where everything is possible. That's why I'm planning on relocating there as early as next year. And then start developing new features on video content, AI on video. There are so many things to do in different industries, not only in retail. So we're going to start diversifying in the next 3 to 4 years.
Let's look at a little bit on business and future leaders. You got like practical advice for business which do want to look to embrace AI. What would like first steps would be?
First, to maybe debunk the myth of AI without thinking about AI being something that threatened the world or threatened the humankind. We're from there, but rather check on the very short term what can be transformed by AI. I'll give you an example, and it took time for us to embrace it, but ChatGPT has a huge impact on your productivity. For example, on making perfect emails, making perfect presentations with very compelling titles in perfect English, specifically when you're not a native English speaker. Same for your marketing posts on different social media channels. You should rely on those tools because if you don't, it's as if you were fighting against others that are having the nuclear bomb and you're just fighting with a sword, So you have to embrace what's available as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're gonna get you're gonna lag behind.
Yeah, that's a good one. And Benoît, the first time I came across your company, right? So it was basically on television. We're also going to put a video link and some on the show notes because people have to see what your company is all about.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So, we started on the independent segment because of really short sales cycles. We close contracts sometimes on the first meeting because people understand what we do. If we have the right references in the area, they can sign a contract right on the first video call we have with them. If it's not the case, in less than 30 days, we managed to sign those independent store owners. We needed those contracts to come as soon as possible to collect data that we anonymize, but to collect data to train our algorithm and to build strong entry barriers. Now we're trying to address other segments than just the independent segment, but those segments have very different needs. The independent store, he wants to reduce his shrink, losses due to shoplifting. It represents a huge amount of money. It also disturb their processes, because when you get shoplifting and you don't know, you don't order new quantities. So you get out of stock without even knowing it. Right. And those people, they cannot afford most of the time a security guard. So we're not replacing anyone's job here. We're just providing a solution to a store owner that has no other solution. It's the very good balance between nothing and a full-time security guard that costs $100K per year. Now, the bigger corporate, those guys have, of course, a similar problem of losing a lot of money in shoplifting. That money could be reinvested in renovating the store, in hiring 1 or 2 more employees for better customer service. In the US, and it starts to come in Europe, but in the US, you have stores that are actually locking up entire shelves or the entire store, meaning that when you go to CVS or Walgreens in California, especially, if you want to buy a toothpaste, you have to call the staff to open the lock in
No
the
way.
two space. So you can imagine the dramatic impact it has on sales. So it's not only about the immediate loss of goods. To debunk the myth of AI replacing the human kind, AI killing jobs, of course, it's going to happen, but it's going to create a lot more on the side. But typically, in our case, we're empowering security agents. Thanks to AI, they are much more productive. They can do their job much better. They can spend time on what matters the most and not spend hours in front of a camera to detect, if he is lucky, 1 or 2 incidents in a week. So AI, what I see is AI empowering people. We need to adapt. That's definitely something we need to do, but it's going to help in a lot of different fields.
Yeah. And the data you are collecting, would this be like also mapped with Gen AI?
So that's a very good point. We're exploring the potential of Gen AI to accelerate our R&D phase. Gen AI for us is a way to generate synthetic video data to have a bigger training data set and have a better performance in a matter of minutes or hours to generate that data. Otherwise, you have to wait to collect real-world data that can take months, as it was the case for us at the beginning of the company. Now that we have more than 5,000 locations equipped, we collect millions of new sequences that are interesting to train on. But Gen AI is a good way, if you already have that real-world data, to feed the Gen AI to generate variations of those existing data. So that's a big potential, and we bet on that. We've been working on that right when ChatGPT came out, and you see after a few months you had for GPT 4.0 that has now this dimension of image and even video. The next step is you're gonna feed ChatGPT with a video, and is gonna help you analyze what's going on there.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. That's something which is going to come, right? So, and are you personally using ChatGPT or are you using something else?
I use ChatGPT every day. Again, I'm not an English native speaker, but I exchange a lot of emails, a lot of content with English natives, and I want to sound and look the most professional possible, and ChatGPT is a good way to do that, to have perfect English everywhere in all your presentations, in all your emails, and also use ChatGPT to get some ideas, like how to present that in a compelling way, how to arrange that slide to make it look clearer. ChatGPT has really good ideas. That's crazy.
Cool. Yeah, agree. What also comes into my mind, the data protection. Do you have to wrestle those topics on data protection, or is it?
Of course. And that's also one of the challenge we had right from the beginning of the company to, again, debunk the myth and try to make sure there's no mistake on what we do and what we don't do. We don't do facial recognition. We don't do re-identification of people. Like, we're not able to say, hey, this guy, I don't know his name, but I know he's the same guy as 2 days ago. We don't do that. We don't track people within the store from camera to camera. We don't do that either. We just analyze the gestures of anybody without having to look at their personal physical traits, just how the body parts evolve over time, how they interact with the environment, and how they interact with objects that have been identified as a backpack, purse, shopping bag, or shopping cart. So, of course, we have to be very transparent on what we do, how we do it, to make sure both clients and regulatory entities understand and understand that this is not mass surveillance.
That's really, really cool, right? Because I know if it works, then that's the first question people are always asking, right? How does it work from a compliance point of view? But I agree, right? So, and especially your story about like how you founded and started the company, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, no, just a quick word on that. This is where the European Union has to act to make sure we don't get we don't lose the battle against US or Chinese companies. Those guys, they already have an edge compared to European companies because of their size, because of their internal market, making it possible for them to be worth billions without having to go abroad. But if we want to compete against those guys, if we want to finally have some GAFAM, Google, Amazon, Facebook, like companies in Europe, we have to make sure we regulate, but we regulate without hindering innovation. This is super important. Otherwise, in a few years, we will not have those technologies and supposedly being perfectly in compliance with what the European Union wants. But at some point, we will have to purchase those solutions to Chinese or US companies.
Yeah. In your view, what would be needed? Like, do you get a special support as a startup from the EU, or do you wish to have like a new department within the EU saying, hey, we focus on startups and we support in this field?
Exactly. So, of course, there is already a support. There is already those are good questions to think about. Now, in how to apply that in the reality, it would be even greater if we have indeed an entity at the European Union level that is asking companies from the field, young companies from the field, what they need to finally become the Google of tomorrow. Exactly as I was saying, at my personal level, I'm always listening to the field. I'm always listening to even intern people that have sometimes even better ideas than what a top manager or myself can have. Well, those regulatory entities should also collaborate with young technology startup in the field to make sure we don't kill them in the egg.
Yeah, agree, Benoît. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Connecting for Future. Your insights on leadership, innovation, and the future of AI are truly inspiring. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and share it with your network.